Okay, imagine this. You step into like a bustling city. It's packed with life, amazing structures, creatures you've just never seen before. Now picture that whole city underwater, and it covers less than 1% of the entire ocean floor.
Yeah, it's tiny, relatively speaking.
Right. But somehow it supports around 25% of all marine species. It's just a wild scale to think about.
Absolutely.
We are talking, of course, about coral reefs. People often call them the rainforests of the sea. So for this deep dive, our mission really is to unpack that, to get into just how profoundly important these ecosystems are. And honestly, if you're passionate about the planet's health, about its future, and I know many of you are understanding the sheer value of reefs, environmentally, economically, socially,
Mhm.
it's not just interesting, it's critical.
Exactly, and that's what's fascinating, isn't it? How something physically so small can have such a massive interconnected impact. It affects nature, it affects human society. It really ties directly into, global well-being and sustainability. A tiny footprint with a huge effect.
It really does challenge how we think about scale, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the environmental side, because that's where this idea of them being a biodiversity powerhouse really hits home.
hmm
When we say biodiversity hotspots, what does that actually look like on a reef? Give us an example.
Right. It's more than just a catchy phrase. Think about it like this. You could take a small patch of reef, maybe the size of your living room,
Okay.
and it could have more unique types of life than, say, a huge chunk of forest on land.
Wow.
It's that dense. And it's not just about, colorful fish. It's everything. We're talking at least a quarter of all marine species. Tiny invertebrates, corals themselves, fish, turtles, sharks, everything. This incredible web of life keeps the ocean's food chain balanced. They're
Yeah.
basically like the irreplaceable foundation for so much marine life.
That puts it into perspective. That density is amazing. And it's not just the life on the reef, is it? The structure itself is doing something huge. People maybe don't always think about their role in coastal protection. They're not just walls, right?
Oh, definitely not just walls. They're far more clever than that. They are living, self-repairing breakwaters. These complex structures sit offshore and they act like natural shock absorbers for wave energy. So when you get powerful storm surges or even tsunami waves, the reef structure breaks up that energy before it slams into the coast.
That sounds incredibly important.
It is. We're talking about protection for over 150,000 kilometers of shoreline in more than 100 countries. Without that protection, coastal communities would be so much more vulnerable to flooding, erosion, damage from hurricanes. It literally saves lives and infrastructure,
Yeah.
billions of dollars worth.
So they're protecting everything behind them. That's a direct link to human safety right there. And their environmental impact goes even further into just general ocean health.
Absolutely. Think about all the organisms living in the reef. Many of them, like sponges or clams, are filter feeders.
Right.
They're constantly filtering the water, straining out particles, sediment, even some pollutants. They act like these giant natural water purifiers.
Like the ocean's kidneys or something.
Kind of, yeah. And that cleaning action improves water clarity, which is really important for other nearby habitats like seagrass beds or mangroves. It's all connected.
That makes sense. It's an interconnected support system. And speaking of connections, I read something fascinating about their role in carbon cycling, which sounds huge. How does that work?
Yeah, and this really connects to the bigger picture of planetary health, something I know is on your radar. Inside the coral tissues live these tiny algae called zooxanthellae.
Oh, wait.
They're microscopic, but they're incredibly important. They perform photosynthesis, just like plants on land. So they take carbon dioxide out of the seawater
Uh-huh.
and turn it into organic matter, releasing oxygen in the process. This helps regulate CO2 levels in the ocean. It's not just local, it's a contribution to global carbon balance and, a healthier atmosphere for all of us.
Wow, that's a direct link to climate stability I hadn't fully appreciated.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, but the impact isn't just environmental, is it? They're also described as economic powerhouses. Let's talk about food supply first.
Yes, and this is huge. Forget the abstract numbers for a second. Just think. Over 1 billion people depend on seafood from coral reefs as a key source of protein.
1 billion.
1 billion. And for many, especially in developing tropical nations, it's also their main source of income. Reef fisheries contribute about a quarter of the total fish catch in those countries.
That's massive.
It is. If those reefs disappear, you're not just losing fish. You're looking at a potential food security crisis. Well, the attraction is obvious, right? Beautiful reefs bring in millions of tourists. Snorkeling, diving, glass-bottom boats, just enjoying the beaches the reefs protect. It generates billions of dollars globally. and creates so many jobs, dive shops, hotels, restaurants, tour guides.
Right.
We're talking about over 94 countries benefiting directly from reef tourism. And for almost 24 of those countries, it's more than 15% of their entire GDP.
15%.
Yeah. Just look at Australia's Great Barrier Reef. That alone is estimated to bring in something like, what, $1.5 billion US dollars every year? Supports tens of thousands of jobs. Losing reefs means losing huge chunks of economies.
So they're underpinning national economies in some places.
Wow.
But there's another economic angle I find fascinating, the medicine chests of the sea. What's that about?
Ah, yes. This is really cool and often overlooked. Because reefs are so incredibly diverse, the organisms living there, sponges, corals, sea squirts, snails, have evolved to produce really unique chemical compounds, often for defense or communication.
Okay, survival tools.
Exactly. And scientists have found that many of these compounds have amazing potential for new drugs. We've already developed treatments for things like cancer, HIV, arthritis, pain, all inspired by chemicals found in reef organisms.
Really? Like what?
Well, a famous example is AZT, the antiviral drug used to treat HIV. Its origins trace back to compounds discovered in a Caribbean reef sponge.
No way.
Yeah. So conserving these reefs isn't just about pretty fish. It's literally about preserving the potential for future life-saving medicines. We've barely scratched the surface of what might be out there.
That's a powerful thought. Saving a reef could genuinely mean saving human lives down the line.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you pull all these economic threads together, fisheries, tourism, coastal protection, potential medicines,
Yeah.
what's the big picture number?
It's staggering, really. Reefs directly support the livelihoods of over 500 million people worldwide. That's fishers, tour guides, hotel workers, researchers, entire communities,
100 million people.
at least. And when you try to put a dollar value on all the goods and services they provide, some analyses estimate the direct net benefits around $30 billion a year. But if you include all the ecosystem services, the protection, the biodiversity support, everything, estimates go up to maybe $375 billion per year.
375 billion.
Yeah. The economic cost of letting these ecosystems collapse would just be catastrophic globally.
Absolute mind-blowing numbers.
Okay.
Okay, beyond the environment and the economy, there's also a deep social and cultural importance, right? How are reefs woven into people's heritage?
Oh, profoundly. For so many indigenous and local communities, especially across the Pacific Islands, but elsewhere too, reefs aren't just like a resource, they're fundamental to their identity.
How so?
They feature heavily in traditional knowledge and folklore, myths, spiritual beliefs, sacred ceremonies. Certain fish, certain shells, even specific parts of the reef might have deep cultural meaning tied to ancestors or creation stories. So, when a reef degrades or disappears, it's not just an environmental loss. It's a loss of cultural heritage, of stories, of rituals, of a sense of place that's been passed down for generations. It hits the very core of the community.
That's a dimension we don't often consider, and it ties back to what you said earlier about food security, too, impacting community well-being directly.
Directly.
Yeah.
Having that reliable local source of fresh seafood is crucial, especially on remote islands where importing food is incredibly expensive or just not feasible.
Right.
A healthy reef means less hunger, less poverty. It means families can feed themselves, maybe earn some income, healthier, more stable communities overall. It's absolutely foundational to their well-being.
Yeah, I can see that direct link. And they also serve as places for learning, right, for education and research.
Definitely. Reefs are like living laboratories. Scientists learn so much about marine biology, ecology, evolution, even the impacts of climate change by studying them. And they're amazing outdoor classrooms. Getting kids, or anyone really, out onto a reef, snorkeling, learning about the life there, it can spark this incredible sense of wonder and stewardship.
Inspire future marine biologists.
Exactly. Or just people who care more about the oceans. Even for those of us far from the coast, reefs are used as powerful examples in education to teach about biodiversity, ecosystems, conservation. They inspire people globally.
That makes sense. Okay, last point on the social side. Community resilience. Especially in the face of, climate change and stronger storms. How do reefs help communities bounce back?
Well, we touched on the coastal protection aspect. By shielding shorelines, intact reefs literally reduce the damage from storms. Fewer homes destroyed, less infrastructure damage, fewer lives lost.
Which means faster recovery.
Much faster recovery, less trauma, less social disruption. It prevents problems like saltwater getting into freshwater supplies, too. And importantly, for you thinking about the planet's future, those reef-related jobs fishing, tourism provide a more stable economic base.
Yeah.
This helps communities adapt better to changes, whether it's environmental shifts or economic shocks.
Right.
When reefs degrade, those communities become incredibly vulnerable. They lose their protection, their food source, their income. It's a direct hit to their resilience. So protecting reefs is absolutely intertwined with protecting the future and stability of these human communities.
It really paints a picture of just how deeply interconnected everything is. The environmental health, the economic stability, the social fabric. It all ties back to these reefs.
It really does. You look at any one aspect and you see the ripples spreading out. From the tiniest algae doing photosynthesis to the economy of a coastal city, it's all linked. Their importance just can't be overstated. Stepping back, you see, when reefs are healthy and thriving, the benefits go way beyond the immediate shoreline. They really touch almost every aspect of planetary health and human well-being. They're kind of the unsung heroes of the ocean in a way.
Unsung heroes, I like that. So given everything we've talked about, their vital roles in biodiversity, coastal defense, global economies, cultural identity, potential medicines, it's a lot. It leads to a big question, doesn't it? For all of us listening, especially those of you passionate about the planet's future, what does truly valuing these incredible ecosystems actually mean for our collective actions moving forward? How can understanding this deep importance inspire more effective ways for you to help protect them?